Spend a few minutes on my channel and you'll see it's no secret that I love Shogun 2. I'd even go as far as to say that out of all the games in the world, it's the one I know the most about. Hi, my name is MrSmartDonkey, and in this video I'm going to go over my personal top 5 best units in Shogun 2. Small disclaimer to start with, this top 5 is based solely on single player experiences and thus I do not recommend using this list as a guideline for multiplayer. Also important to note is that the majority of my experience lies with legendary difficulty, which may skew my opinion on the usefulness of some units. Keep that in mind as we go through the numbers. Starting off our top 5 at number 5, Light Cavalry. I hold a great love for Light Cavalry due to the fact that they can be recruited early on in campaigns and add a lot of depth to your army. Their upkeep is only slightly higher than that of other early game units, and just having a few of these in your army will win you battle after battle. I don't need to tell you how to use cavalry effectively, but needless to say, charge these bad boys into some ashigaru and enjoy the mayhem cost. Keep in mind however, they are not meant for sustained combat, so make sure to cycle charge them rather than leaving them in melee. The single most important feature of the Light Cavalry however is the fact that they can 1v1 a general and win. This isn't a rare sight either, it's a common thing that happens very frequently, especially in the early game when the AI doesn't have a lot of cavalry yet. This is why I tend to refer to my Light Cavalry as general assassins in my campaigns. Let's move on to number 4, Naginata Samurai. Many a campaign has been won off the back of these guys, without a doubt the most defensive of all samurai infantry units, which is why they work so well in heavy archer based armies. To help that fact, they have the highest armor rating of all non-hero infantry. When upgraded you can get them to a whopping 14 armor, rivaled only by the most defensive of hero units. Put these guys out front, let them tank the enemy's arrows while your archers take care of business. They will beat most other samurai in a one-on-one situation. They might lose to a katana samurai, but they'll make up for it with their anti-cavalry bonus. Due to their versatility you won't need any other melee infantry. They'll protect your flanks against cavalry, and with the aforementioned archer support, they will take on any other infantry in the center whilst tanking the enemy's arrows. Speaking of archer support, let's move on to the number 3 spot, the unit that works so well together with the Naginata Samurai, Bow Warrior Monks. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, my perception of the ranged infantry in Shogun 2 might be a little skewed because these guys are so amazing I never really bother using any other ranged infantry. Thus I know much less about the ins and outs of other ranged infantry than I do about the Bow Warrior Monks. I usually skip past bow samurai and go straight for Bow Warrior Monks. I'm sorry, but there's just something about watching an enemy unit get shredded by arrows in a matter of seconds. The Bow Warrior Monks have the longest range of any non-artillery ranged unit and thus get an edge over every other similar unit. Let's be clear however, the Bow Warrior Monk won't win the 1v1 against every other ranged unit. They are the best archers, yes, but they don't do too well in a straight up archer versus archer battle because of 2 stats. They're extremely low armor and their smaller unit size. Like I mentioned earlier though, this list is based on experience in single player, and lucky for the Bow Warrior Monks, the AI doesn't always make the best decisions when it comes to choosing who to focus their fire on. More often than not the AI will focus on your melee line while your Bow Warrior Monks get to pick off their archers one by one. As I mentioned earlier, combine these guys with a line of Naginata Samurai and you'll have the time of your life picking and choosing who to destroy next while your line just stands there tanking the arrows. Coming in at the number 2 spot is Yari Cavalry, the second cavalry unit in this list and also the last. Don't get me wrong, Grey Guard might be a better unit, but they're extremely expensive and perhaps more importantly, limited. You can't rely on them for most of your campaign like you can with Yari Cavalry. These guys take over where the Light Cavalry become too weak. They fulfill a similar role, but they do it much better. Light Cavalry can take on an enemy general and win, Yari Cavalry will take on 2, 3 or maybe even 4 depending on how they come at you. That's not it though. The reason Yari Cavalry are so much better than their only real competitor, Katana Cavalry, is quite simple. They can kill Katana Cavalry without breaking a sweat. Katana Cavalry are better in sustained combat with infantry, sure, but how are they gonna do that if they're dead? Yari Cavalry will kill any Katana Cavalry and then move on by charging in the backs of said infantry, and that's all there is to it. Another statistic the Yari Cavalry will strive on is their speed and stamina. They share both of those traits with the Light Cavalry, making them the shared fastest units in the game. Their stamina is shared with several other units, but that doesn't make it any less useful. All those features combined settles the Yari Cavalry firmly in the number 2 spot. Finally, we've arrived at the number 1 spot, which is of course reserved for Yari Wall. Yari Ashigaru of course. This is probably the choice that will cause the most controversy, but before you get your torch and pitchfork out, allow me to make my case. I wasn't kidding when I said Yari Wall, that ability is what makes the unit. Without it, Yari Ashigaru wouldn't get anywhere near this list. Truth be told, Yari Samurai would actually be an amazing unit with it, but instead it's one of the worst units in the game. In fact, a Yari Ashigaru and Yari Wall will beat a Yari Samurai in a 1v1 situation, which just shows you how amazing it is. These guys are the staple of your army until you're able to afford samurai armies, and by then they're usually so experienced they can easily take on samurai armies fresh out of recruitment. In all fairness, it makes sense that they are the staple of your army since there's no other options. Unless you're playing as the Ikoiki, who of course get the lone sword ashigaru, but that's a different story. Another one of their strengths is of course their ability to counter cavalry. They have the second highest bonus versus cavalry of all non-hero units, right behind Yari Samurai and Yari Ronin. Allow me to stress the fact that I judge units by their cost effectiveness and ability in combat at the respective time you'd use them in a campaign. Of course a Katana Samurai would beat a Yari Ashigaru in Yari Wall, but a Katana Samurai also costs twice as much as a Yari Ashigaru and isn't commonly used in big numbers in the early game. On top of that, Yari Ashigaru aren't a unit that are great at 1v1ing. Their strength comes from their ability to hold the line, not from their killing power. All these factors combined make me put the Yari Ashigaru on the number 1 spot. In many of my Let's Plays I've repeatedly said that Yari Ashigaru is the best unit in the game, and I still stand by that. That's it for my top 5 best units in Shogun 2. Do you agree with my list, or does yours look different? Let me know in the comments. Either way, I hope you enjoyed, thank you very much for watching, have a good day and goodbye.